Well, if like me you thought General Muhammadu Buhari, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, didn't have a sense of humor, then you better think again. He thrilled members of the organized private sector here at Lagos House in Marina in an interaction organized by the party for him in Lagos. Well, hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetumobi, on the second day of February at Lagos House in Marina, the commercial capital of Nigeria, where the All Progressives Congress has organized a business interaction with its candidate, General Muhammadu Buhari, and members of the organized private sector, captains of industry here in Lagos. While welcoming everyone to the event and engagement, he says, quote, "with those who know where the shoe pinches," end of quote. Dr. Kayode Fayemi, the former governor of Ekiti State, who heads the policy group of the All Progressives Congress, read his opening speech.
You're welcome to this event. GMB means business. And this is the first in a series of town hall meetings that we're going to be holding with critical segments of our economy and society. The statement that we're trying to make by starting with the business community is hopefully one that is clear to all. For us in the All Progressives Congress, we believe that the economy is at the heart of whatever progressive transformation our country would witness under our administration by God's grace. To paraphrase the former American president, Mr. Bill Clinton, it is the economy stupid. We know not everybody has seen the manifesto of our party, and those who have seen the manifesto are still very desirous of knowing what it is that we want to do about the economy, the private sector, entrepreneurial activities, and enterprise in general. We have spent a great deal of time on this. It took us almost a year going around the country talking to people in the business sector, in industry, in the finance world, to come up with our program as reflected in our manifesto. And it is clear for those who have seen it. We do not make any apologies about the social democratic roots of our party. Ideologically, we believe that government has a critical role to play in helping to boost the economic sector. And whilst we do not apologize about the interventionist responsibility that government has, we also believe it behoves on us as a political party to provide the necessary enabling environment for businesses to thrive, for the private sector to grow, and for us to move from poverty to prosperity. We have brought our presidential candidate because he is very desirous to meet with captains of industry, with the business community, and with all those who are interested in what it is precisely that we want to do to, one, talk to him, and two, listen to him. And we hope in the course of this engagement, it will be clearer to all what it is that our reason dirt is, what it is that we have as a programmatic agenda for the business community, and what it is that we'll be doing in terms of what we will provide for this community to be able to achieve optimal capacity in the course of helping to grow our economy. We all know that Nigeria is in the doldrums, being a monoproduct economy that has been largely dependent on oil for the better part of our existence as a nation. It is clear that we need creativity, strong partnership with the business sector in order to grow this economy. But we've also, as a party, come to the realization that this is actually the best period for us to turn around this economy, to win ourselves from our addiction to oil, to grow the non-oil sector of our economy, and to use depression as the basis for genuine and solid transformation in our country. And I'm not using the word transformation pejoratively. I know you've had that word so often. I don't want to make a political comment about it, but serious, genuine transformation. And if you look around the world, the countries that have really grown, they've used their periods of adversity to transform their economy, using interventionist initiatives by governments. And that is what you have seen in the states that we govern, not least the one that many of you operate out of, the business capital of the country, Lagos. Our candidate really wants to listen to you as those who know where the shoe pinches and those who really want to give us the benefit of your own wealth creation experience. We're more interested in wealth creators. We're not necessarily keen on government contractors, except you're going to use that as a basis to create our wealth.
And after reading his opening speech, Muhammadu Buhari, the APC presidential candidate, thrilled members of the audience.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for responding to our invitation. In the course of asking Governor Fashola to set up this meeting, two things occurred to me. Firstly, is that I told him that I meant business by getting Nigerian economy back on its feet. This is why the caption GMB means business was coined, I suppose, by my handlers. And number two, he told me that he meets with you every 6 months to listen to your problems and provide solutions within the following 6 months. This is a wonderful idea because government cannot know in detail business developments as they occur because it is too immersed in various other aspects of government. A periodic, regular series of meetings is something I would encourage if you elect me as your next president, so that our government can hear from you at first hand what we should or should not do to advance business interests. This will be our approach to growing the economy, creating jobs, and restoring the dignity of labor among Nigerians. I will, however, start by sharing with you a summary of the economic plans highlighted in our manifesto. As practical as is possible to do so, our policies for implementing our commitments will be governed by the highest consideration of how they create jobs. Equipping and resourcing our security personnel, for example, will not be limited to provision of arms alone, but uniforms, boots, and accoutrements are enormous opportunities for textile production, garments making, and shoe making. Power supply is the minimum that we can seriously commit in order to quickly galvanize the economy back to productivity. We agree with the privatization of the power utilities, but we believe it must go further to transmission. After the signing and handing over ceremonies of the power assets, the real work of producing, transmitting, and distributing power is really just beginning. The reason why the success seems elusive is that apart from the signing ceremony and handing over of the power assets, the hard work to connect the various parts of the power chain, supply gas, install transformers, complete submissions has not been done yet. Our studies show that we will require no less than 200,000 trained personnel to support the initiative to provide power and light up Nigeria. Apart from the inherent direct employment that this will give, the reduction in cost production, the savings from self-generation by Nigerians who currently spend a lot of their income on purchase of diesel and petrol to generate their own electricity will reduce the burden on their disposable income. These savings to Nigerians from reliable electricity will help the average Nigerian spend their money on other necessities of life and reduce poverty. There is already an initiative to build a refinery in Lagos. Our government will fully support this initiative because a local refinery means many things such as jobs locally at a Nigerian refinery instead of refineries abroad, local fuel supply and national security, reduce importation, less demand for foreign exchange, and strengthening of the Naira. Other areas of infrastructure investments is roads and highway construction from one end of Nigeria to the other. We will concentrate on the roads and highways that link up Nigerian states, while state governments will be expected to connect their states to these highways by building the last mile connections. Road construction alone will unlock a value chain of opportunities in the building industry for construction companies, builders, engineers, architects, quarry operators, cement and iron and production and supply. The successful opening up of Nigeria by the construction of new roads and highways will revive road transportation, truck manufacturing, tire manufacture, engine oil, brake and production on the other hand. It will also create a demand for jobs for mechanics, drivers, and those engaged in transport support business. We expect a revival of all the interstate economies that use to thrive across Nigeria, providing support to travelers by way of canteens, restaurants, farm produce, etc. This is a summary of how we intend to revive the economy, but I know that there are views you have about what will help and what will not. So, apart from sharing our plans with you, the other purpose of this meeting is to afford me the opportunity to listen to you, to hear your own side of the problems. We shall collate your views and proposals in policy formation. I wish to invite you to sit with my economic team to look at our proposals and develop workable policies and implementation options. In particular, we would like, in consultation with you, to explore options of reducing taxes and customs duties without too much disruption to government finances and private sector business plans. Before I yield the floor to you, I wish to say a few more words about our manifesto and our campaign message. The manifesto of the APC is the product of a survey that took over 6 months to develop. We spoke to over 20,000 Nigerians across the 36 states and the FCT. The questionnaires we issued to them and the interviews we conducted showed overwhelmingly that insecurity, corruption, and the economy were the biggest worries among the electorate. This is why I have been talking about insecurity and corruption on the one hand, and mining, agriculture, infrastructure, and jobs on the economic side. They are so interconnected, and the Nigerian people are right in their identification of these problems. We cannot build an economy in an insecure environment. We cannot build an economy when the playing field is not level. We cannot build an economy where corruption is the working capital. Corruption affects our ability to secure ourselves, and it also undermines the performance of the economy. Let me share some figures with you to demonstrate what I mean. This current government is being challenged to account for an estimated $20 billion, and the whole country is awaiting a report of a forensic audit. $20 billion at 210 naira to the dollar is equal to 4.2 trillion. Nearly a year's federal budget. It is true that this sum cannot be accounted for. This is grotesque form of corruption. Just think, at 5 million naira per vehicle, this money would have bought 840,000 petrol vehicles. This would have improved security in every town and village in this country. At 13.5 million for a high capacity bus, this money would have bought 311 buses. This would have revolutionized the transport and production side of the economy. From information at my disposal, Lekki Bridge in Lagos cost 29 billion naira to construct. 4.2 trillion would have built 145 Lekki bridges. This would have revolutionized transport, infrastructure, construction, employment in the economy. As the average cost of generating 1 megawatt of power is about 1.5 million United States dollars, excluding gas and distribution costs. $20 billion would have bought us some 13,333 megawatts of power. What a difference that would have made up and down the country. If you also factor 2.2 trillion spent on subsidizing fuel import, which became a huge scandal, you may then understand why our manifesto focuses on the issues of security, corruption, and the economy. We are too vulnerable as a nation at this moment if we have to import fuel to move our planes, our tanks, and our men. We are too vulnerable, as you can see, that we also have to import arms. We are vulnerable because our troops also depend on imported food. We cannot continue like this.
After reading the speech written for him by his handlers, Muhammadu Buhari thrilled members of the audience with his sense of humor. He would proceed to read one secretly prepared by him and secretly hidden away from his handlers.
After reading the speech I was given to regurgitate to you, again I was served with a note which I think I am competent enough to discuss with you based on my experience. I am sure you can identify whose writing this is. I think whoever passed the note, which I need to keep secret, was not unmindful of our achievements when we were in NNPC. If you could recall, we used to have only one refinery in Port Harcourt, refining 50,000 Nigerian barrels a day. It was upgraded to 100,000 barrels a day. Another one was co-built in Port Harcourt to produce another 150,000 barrels a day. So Port Harcourt alone used to have the capacity to refine 250,000 barrels a day of Nigerian crude. I personally signed the contract for a refinery, another 100,000 barrels, purely Nigerian crude. And then Kaduna refinery, 100,000 barrels a day, 50,000 barrels a day of heavy crude, which could be Venezuelan or Middle Eastern one, 50,000, so that we can produce heavier products. But the rest of 400,000 barrels a day are purely Nigerian crude. After a detailed study that we have the capacity to produce that crude from the fields for at least a generation. And then we proceeded to build pipelines then of over 3,200 kilometers. Later, during Babangida regime, Professor Amin put an additional depot and some pipelines to his base in Yola. And we also built more than 20 depots. I couldn't remember the number of pumping stations. And we got the tankers off-road. It saved the economy. We used less fuel. We saved a lot of lives. We saved roads. When I came back again as head of state somehow. And I was lucky to get Professor Temdebi, who was a highly committed Nigerian. And we pounced on illegal bunkering. And people abandoned their barges and tankers and ran for their dear lives. All our depots were choked with products. And we started exporting 100,000 barrels a day of refined products after satisfying home market. So honestly, I was in a state of shock when subsequent government reduced us into net importers and built in so much overhead in it that Nigerian will have to go and look for fuel from Europe or America, as any non-producing country will do. And then the question of this subsidy is still baffling me. Who is subsidizing who? I can understand Nigerians to buy at the end of the program at filling station the cost of per barrel of different Nigerian crude at wellhead, the cost of transportation to the refinery, the cost of refining, and the cost of refined products to the filling station. Maybe with some overhead so that the oil doesn't come too cheap. But people start talking of subsidy. Who's subsidizing who? And I know all these projects Nigeria committed. We didn't borrow a kobo. It was done through Nigerian savings. This will compare favorably to what is happening. We fought a 30-month civil war, very serious civil war for 30 months, with General Gone as head of state, with Chief of FEB as Commissioner of Finance and Deputy Chairman Executive Council. We didn't borrow a kobo. Now when Boko Haram is threatening Abuja, we ran to the National Assembly to borrow $1 billion to fight them. The consume of leadership in this country cannot wait. Thank you very much.
We'll take a break now. Join me again after the break.
You know, Angela, that's a very difficult question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
Angela, that's a great question.
Great question, Angela.
Angela, that is a very great question. That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah, very good question.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
That's an interesting question.
This is an interesting question you pose.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
According to the National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, who first broached the idea at the Chatham House in London, it will be within the limits of the Constitution if the election is postponed for some time so that it can enable the Independent National Electoral Commission to get its acts together, particularly in the area of the distribution of permanent voters' cards. Is this some ploy to take the wind out of the sails of the APC? Because it's like the APC is blowing like a hurricane across the country. That's what the party says, that call to postpone the election is targeted at them because the ruling party feels that it's at a disadvantage already. Whether this is true or not, we cannot say. But is there good reason for the postponement of the election? I wouldn't say so. Yes, somebody has said the NSA in its privileged position knows more than we know. It is possible. But from what we can see, about 68 million Nigerians are registered to vote. Out of that number, close to 40 million have got their PVCs and the others have not got. What then is the alternative? Is postponement the first thing? If about 40 million people have their PVCs and the others don't, yet we want everybody registered to vote, or as many as possible to vote, what we can then do is that those who have not got PVCs but who have their temporary voters cards should be allowed to use them and vote. So if INEC, that is the umpire and that is going to conduct the election, says it will be ready, then why must we compel them to postpone? If the call for postponement had come from INEC, I would say yes, let's listen to them because they are the ones that will conduct. But if it is coming from sources outside INEC, then there are lots of question marks. The country is like divided right down the middle on whether to postpone or not. Those who support the ruling party are pro-postponement, while those who support the opposition are anti-postponement. I think there is a lot more than meets the eye in the entire issue.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela, coming from the interaction with the organized private sector and the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC.
It's been said many times at many quarters, known to all of us, that the major problem we are having in Nigeria is corruption. When we talk of power, it is corruption. APC has been talking of fighting corruption.
What are you going to do differently from what you've been having over the years? Because we've been with this problem for a very long time. Are we going to continue to have ICPC, EFCC, all these agencies that are continuing to be there and the corruption continue to be on the influence?
I would like to know what the APC is going to do to ensure that the jobs that are made available can actually be filled by Nigerian graduates from the technical colleges, which is basically to ensure that the youth are employable. It is one thing to create the jobs, it's another thing to ensure that those who are looking for those jobs have the skills to fit.
We cannot say the government is not doing well in every area, in all aspects. What I'm concerned about is that we have some level of continuity in the economy. I mean, because I don't want to say that everything is bad. Some things are right, some things are going in the right direction. And having a new government sometimes scares us. We will lose time in Nigeria in terms of continuity in governance. That's my concern.
Who is heading your economic team so that whatever suggestions we have, we can pass it on to you? Thank you.
I hope I have scribbled the questions correctly. The first one, corruption, what can be done differently? I have been saying it out in the field that you don't go to any Nigerian Ministry of Health Sector without seeing these documents. Administrative instruction and financial instruction. These are derived from the constitution of the country, but they are put in the waste paper basket. And people are doing what they like. What we will do is to insist on this due process must be genuine. We have to get technocrats that have commitment, not only to themselves, but to the country, that will sit and go through application and papers for contracts advertised and sit with the companies that are experienced, that have performed in this country and outside, that can be compared, and therefore get the best for the country in terms of performance through the specifications given in the type of job to be done. About helping the home companies that are trying to come up, I will try again to illustrate one example which happened during the buildings of the refineries. I visited Indonesia and Sudan, where they built 100,000 barrels refineries, and therefore how much it cost them, and we got those facts from other countries. And when we put our international tender, the Japanese beat everybody hands down as far as Kaduna is concerned. That's why Chiyoda was the contribution of the country. It's an international tender based on 100,000 barrels capacity refineries built elsewhere in the countries. And these calculations were made, the transportation, the quality of things. In fact, all the bridges, virtually, and culverts from here to Kaduna, they had to go and see their engineers. Can they carry the equipment from here? Other people objected to Kaduna because the savings made in transportation and the likely dangers for the equipment, if you build it on the coast, it will be cost effective. Then we gave them the example of Warri refinery, where we said Warri, that state, would give the place. They gave us Amashi place. The piling, for the columns of the refinery, it cost so much that the cost of transportation from here to Kaduna, where you don't need to file, offset it. So the argument in the Executive Assembly was killed. So all well and good. If we from our government would like to encourage you, that's why you are here. I didn't ask for foreign entrepreneurs to come here and listen to me. I asked for Nigerian ones, or those that have commitment in Nigeria. Try and be truly competitive. If you haven't done any job before, worth 100 million naira, don't go and quote for 2 billion naira job because you don't have the capacity. So give the government a chance, to go back to what you used to work. I have mentioned it in the field that corruption has assumed such a proportion. It has almost turned into a culture in Nigeria. And I have gone through so much to know this. So if we said we are going to look back, we will never move forward. We will try and draw a line. But what is with the courts, we will allow the courts. Not because our courts are perfect. I think I know this better. I've been in the Supreme Court for 3 times for losing elections. But there's nothing we can do with a part of the institution, the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. We will allow them to continue. But from the day an APC federal government is sworn in the center and in the state, those who are responsible for public funds will have to behave themselves. That's all I can say. What can APC do about employment? Again, there is no state, and so far we have visited 32 states. There are no state we haven't told different audiences. The magnitude of unemployment in this country is frightening. When I go around, I'm sure some of you see the type of people that accompany us. Some will be running in front of our bus from the airport to the cities or to the venues, several kilometers, sweating. And it was said over 60% of Nigerian population are youth. These youth, most of them are unemployment, whether they have been to school or not. This is the danger. We have realized it. And we felt what may quickly give us some relief is agriculture and mining, before other detailed intellectual studies have to apply for us to help. And then, of course, by trying to empower you, building the infrastructure, especially power. When there is power, it will be amazed how much we can save. And do the infrastructure again, like petroleum industry infrastructure. Let's make our refineries work instead of going to the international market and buy products. Let us make the pipelines work. Let us reduce the amount of tankers on road. Let us save the roads and save lives. These things are so practical. So I think creating jobs, agriculture, mining, doing the infrastructure, and making it cheaper for small-scale industries like the one you mentioned, they can break even, and then try to encourage exports, especially in agriculture. People are acquiring land that can afford it. When somebody tried to convince me of this point and told me how much Nigerians spend in importing tomato puree, and then when I drive from Kaduna to Homdora through Kano, and so how tomatoes get rotten. And now they learn the way of drying it and bringing it here and selling it. It's a shame that we are importing tomatoes. Even rice, we will try and stop it, either by charging high tax for those importing and stopping smuggling and encouraging our own production here at home. And about mining, I'm sure some of you have read what has been happening to some Nigerians, desperate states like Zamfara, where they think there is gold, and they are trying to get that gold using some of the chemicals that are not unhealthy. That some foreign NGOs were concerned that they have to raise team to go and start treating Nigerian children that are, with deformities, various type of deformities, because of the effect of some chemicals that are being used to extract gold. Now, if the government can move forward and organize quickly, there will be a healthy mining industry and a lot of more people employed.
Join me again after the break. So what is 60 Minutes with Angela all about? It's not an interview. I like to think it's a conversation between two people making the news, people who are in the news, and those who become the news. And the whole idea is to inform, to educate, or to clarify, as the case may be. It is an art getting people to answer the questions that everyone is thinking in their minds. And that's what we try to do on 60 Minutes with Angela. I ask all the questions that everyone's thinking about and no one wants to voice. All the questions you always wanted to ask, you get those answers on 60 Minutes with Angela. Every week on this station, 60 Minutes with Angela, getting answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
I think what you are referring to the best of my knowledge, is the election that was scheduled for 14th of February and 28th of February this year. I don't want to believe that some people or the government of Nigeria intends to postpone the election. election date has been fixed by the body that was saddled with responsibility by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And any attempt to change that date or to interfere with the date of the procedure of the election will lead to chaos in this country. I want to appeal to whoever, either individual, corporate bodies, whoever, political parties, or whoever are working on this or they are planning on this should desist from it. It is our constitutional responsibility to elect a leader that will help us, that will take us from this problem to a great Nigeria that we all dream of. And they should allow Nigeria to perform their civil responsibility to vote whoever they feel can better their lot. I want to appeal because if you don't want to invite the military, and that is not, military is to defend this country, not to rule this country. We are tired of military rule. We are tired of the military rule. We have embraced democracy and it's working for us. So our responsibility is to elect leaders that will better our lot. Let everybody, INEC representative or INEC boss or whoever in charge of this election, conduct election as stipulated and with the date and guideline that has been released to us. We are ready to vote. We are ready to choose our leader. And I want to crave indulgence of Nigerians to come out en masse to cast their vote, stand by their vote and ensure that their vote counts. They should get early to the polling station, get themselves accredited and vote. I pray that Almighty God will give us a credible leader. We make Nigeria great. Nigeria is our country. It's a very good country. It's a great country. By the grace of God, God will answer our prayers and Nigeria will be a country that all of us will be proud to be. And the dream of Nigeria will come true.
Oh, to have even thought about postponement at all shows that these people are not prepared. It shows that they are not ready, they are not thinking of how to improve Nigeria. For anybody at this point to think of postponing this election shows that it doesn't have Nigeria at heart. All of us that are progressive, all of us that are thinking about Nigeria, all of us that are thinking of how Nigeria should do better are thinking of how to save Nigeria come 14th February. And so for anybody to think otherwise is an enemy of this country. We are happy that we are prepared very well. Nigerians love us. And because they are seeing Nigerians sing that song of change, they want to use whatever means to make sure that they use another strategy of offering Wosu on inconclusive election. We are going to have an election come, on the 14th, and Nigeria is going to change from then. We are prepared for this election. Everybody's waiting for it. We are all, seeing that, come February 14th and 28th, Nigeria is, entering another chapter. And so we are wishing all Nigerians a very good time. February will come and all of us will have a Nigerian of our dream. So for anybody to think about, postponement, shift or whatever, language is absurd, is unthinkable, is un-Nigerian, and we should not even echo that with them.
Welcome back. My concluding moments now at the interaction one-on-one with the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, Muhammadu Buhari.
My question has to do with our anxieties. The present government has released some money to the central bank for SMEs, and we are hopefully about to start accessing these funds. Our question now is, with a new government in place, are we going to lose, especially women who have 60% Are we going to be able to access these funds? Is the government going to change their mind? Good first question. The second question now. Lagos State government took us, NASI members, last year, January, to show us some land in Ikorodu, which they said they were going to give SMEs to start their businesses, to provide land for them anyway, because that is one of the difficult problems we have. Most of them don't have property and pay a lot of money as rents. So the question now is to Lagos State Governor, are we going to get this property or not? Thank you very much.
This is a private sector think tank research organization that has over the last 22 years worked with the governments, different governments, focusing on issues that have to do with development and good governance. In fact, we have held summits with the government every year, and I think this year we'll be holding our 21st summit. The reason why, the issue I want to ask, or the question I want to raise, is one that's coming out of the general membership. And it has to do with a point another speaker raised about continuity. Really, the concern is, to what extent must we look for change with respect to the current policy direction of this current administration, looking at the various areas that they're dealing with right now? What things would you, as a government, stop doing? What things would you sort of change totally? And what things would you reverse in terms of policy that has to do with agriculture, infrastructure, oil and gas, and things of that nature? Thank you very much.
I think our change is going to be positive. What we will insist is that I think it's only fair, whether it is Minister of Economic Development or whoever has assembled a team, a reasonable team of committed people, economists and industrialists that are versatile, to be in charge of issuing this money. People may complain about time limit and so on, but we better be sure that those that qualified for this help do utilize it, and it can be seen visibly. It will advance employment and getting goods and services across party affiliation. The second one, issue of federal government continuity. I think I once saw a small article or comment by one of the chaps that said the question of continuity. He said people are demanding of continuity. If you are standing on a cliff, and if you continue, you know where you are going. I think you will be very careful about continuity. I think we have experienced so much that we will try as quickly as possible identify where continuity is worth continuing, or where reverse is even more important than continuing. I think the question on agriculture, oil and gas and so on, I think we have dwelt on that. But the example we'll give is that, again, through experience. I think when I was in NNPC again in 1976 or so, a report then came of commissioned study on gas. At that time, I think up to late 80s, Nigeria was considered to be more of a gas country than even a petroleum country. So if that study has been properly used, in fact, that was why we initial LNG. Initially, it were to be 12 trains, and that would have earned us more money than the export of crude then, the LNG. But then, being Nigerians, we have failed to realize that. So, from Egbin station to the thermal stations that were there, to the additional ones proposed, if there were a serious study, the gas can be sourced, just get Shell and BP, because most of the field were their own, to share, their studies with us and see how we can put installation that will separate the gas from the crude, channel it to location where we can have these plants that will produce power and so on. Nigeria honestly has no business being in the dark. God has given us the people and the resources, but it is us, the elite, that failed to manage the society and the country. Thank you very much.
Concluding the event, the Governor of Lagos State, Babatunde Fashola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, spoke about two major fears that he had. He said, first, it's not how much Nigeria earns, but it's the value that we get from money that we earn. And secondly, the idea of continuity. Do we want continuity just for the sake of it? Or do we want continuity with a different team that has a different capacity? After all, we've seen a team with the same capacity for 6 years. In addition, Governor Fashola made the point that the APC presidential manifesto that we see today is a manifesto for 2015 through to 2019. And he took a jab at the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, where he said they were projecting a manifesto from the year 1999.
In closing, I just would again like to reiterate our appreciation for your presence at short notice, and to say that when I hear the debates that what is the difference between APC and PDP, I think that the difference must be obvious to those who discern sufficiently, who look beyond the rhetorics. First is the manifesto which the candidate has explained its history, a manifesto that is people-based, that is research-based. And if you go to www.apc press releases, you will see digital copies of that manifesto. And as you leave here this morning, there will also be copies made available to as many of you as are here. But two things on the manifesto. The manifesto is a manifesto designed to address 2015 problems going on to 2019. Now, what the other side has is a 1999 manifesto. And that probably explains the disconnect between our realities and the realities that you hear. The other point I wish to make in closing is that the transformation that has been put forth has headed south, not north. The Naira has weakened, interest rates have skyrocketed, and it is for us to choose whether we want 4 more years of that. And the Naira is essentially in a free fall in an economy that is currently import denominated. And it would only mean that the purchasing power of our disposable income will continue to reduce. The necessity of now is to halt that free fall. That is something we cannot vote continuity on. I will not. But more importantly, as the candidate has said, it is essentially not how much really Nigeria earns. It is what value we get out of that money. Now, if we have sold crude oil, our major income earner, for like almost 5-6 years at over $100 per barrel, and all of us are saying there is pain, do we want to continue now when there is reduced income with the same team and with the same management capacity? If they couldn't do that much at $100 per barrel, can we trust them to do more with less? So for me, those are my issues in closing. And to address the lady who asked about land in Ikorodu, to the best of my knowledge, that is the land in Imota Agro Park Estate. Well, Mrs. Oworu tells me that about 45 applicants have received their survey plans, and that if the applications that are pending that have been paid for, clearly we will make further allocations. I know that there's still some land left there, so if you make applications, I'm sure that the Ministry of Commerce and Industry will respond to it. Thank you all, and God bless.
Well, that's it for this week. You can like 60 Minutes with Angela on Facebook. Alternatively, follow me on Twitter, Angela at 60 Minutes. I'm Angela Ajitumobi. Thank you for watching.